So I'm sure by now everybody's caught wind of this, and if you haven't, then I'm sorry that you've been out of the loop for like 3 weeks. But and I don't mean that as a hit or anything, man. I'm just saying some people just prefer not to be involved in the news because it's too fucking negative and shit. But and I get that. But we have all this stuff going on in Iran, protesting, and some call it a protesting, some call it a revolt. I like to say it's a little bit of both. And you like to see a revolution in a country like that that's been held down by someone's boot for, God, since what, 1979? So it's been 46 years since Islam took over in Iran, and they have just been living like prisoners in their own country for that entire time. That country, I think they're rated as the first or second highest country in the world that publicly executes their citizens. And from what I've been gathering in information is majority of those executions in Iran are because people are protesting against the government, the Islam regime. So they're executed and murdered for that. Among other things that go on, like women have to cover up, they can't let their hair show, they can't show their face, things like that. And all these videos and pictures have been circulating lately of the 70s before the Islamic regime took over of what Iran looked like. And it looked like fucking Miami, Florida. People, in t-shirts and shorts, wearing jeans. The women weren't covered up. They were people at the beach, skiing, water skiing. They're on boats. They're fishing. They're having a great time. They're fucking smiling. They're smiling in Iran. So that's how much it's changed to what we see now. And all the footage, I'm sure a lot of you have seen that by now. We have the footage of, at one point the other day, they were saying it was within 1 to 1.5 million Iranians were on the street protesting in 30 to 40 different cities or towns, whatever you call them over there. But across Iran, they burned down infrastructures, they burned down important buildings, they burnt down synagogues and mosques and shit like that. And don't get that confused with the Muslim terrorists that are there. So there was a warning put out yesterday. I call it a warning, but it's just a statement or an announcement from Iran that they were going to begin public executions today. Now they've already killed thousands of protesters. Because I think as far as maybe 4 or 5 days ago, the regime shut off internet throughout the country. And I think about 3 days ago or 4 days ago, they shut off power. So it's constantly dark. Like, except, at night it's all dark. During the day, there's no power or nothing. So we gather that, it's because they don't want anybody to be able to send out pictures or video of what the regime's doing to the protesters. And that's killing them. Trump made a threat that if you continue to kill your own people, your protesters, we will step in. Now, so far, that's an idle threat because he has not stepped in. And the numbers are varying all over the place. And this is what happens when you don't have a direct connection with the country, that they can literally talk to you and tell you what's going on. So we see as little as, and I don't mean to use the word little, but we see as low a number as 2,000, which is still way too many. It's 2,000 too many. All the way up to 12,000 people. And then today I saw one of these right-wing nut jobs like Laura Loomer or somebody, I think it was Laura Loomer, saying 15,000. And then I saw another one just a couple hours ago before I started doing this. It was up to 20,000. So people are inflating it just for the drama. It's probably realistically more around the 10,000 range, which is just absolutely horrible. Even 2,000 is horrible. 1 is too many. But this is about a video about Iran expecting to execute first anti-government protester, and that's supposed to happen today.
Massive protests continue in Iran as the death toll reportedly is more than 2,500, and the regime is now
See, hear that number? 2,500. And throughout these videos, what we're going to talk about, you're going to hear these numbers change a lot, probably.
allegedly scheduled to execute the first anti-government protester today. President Trump urging that all Iranian patriots keep protesting as he sends a warning to Tehran.
We've been right about everything. want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, you know, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not going to work out good.
So, I mean, yeah, so you make these threats, but you got to follow through with it. So, my thing is the Iranian people had started doing this before we went into Venezuela and took out Maduro, right? But it escalated as soon as we went in and took Maduro out because we didn't want the Venezuelan people to suffer anymore, among a lot of other things, of course, oil, all this other stuff, drug cartels. So as soon as that happened, Iran went nuts. Like, people just started coming out. At first in tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of people. Now it's in the millions of people running around protesting and revolting. So now they're like, all right, well, if Trump can do that for them, maybe he'll do it for us if we kind of help push the envelope a little bit, you know? And they keep saying this, and then the guy, the crown prince who was exiled from the country, I can't remember his name, I can't even pronounce his name, but the crown prince, he was removed from the country, is begging and pleading with Trump, look, you said that you're going to come help. We're at this point now where thousands of people have been murdered by the regime running the country. Are you going to help? And that's what the people, I think, are thinking, that Trump is going to do something.
Joining me now to discuss is former Ambassador at Large and Coordinator for Counterterrorism, Nathan Sales. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Nathan. Great to see you as always.
Great to see you, Charlie.
We're hearing reports that Iran might hang somebody, a protester, today. We've gotten lots of mixed reports about the numbers of people who have been murdered by the regime over the last couple of weeks. We've heard the highest numbers in the low thousands. Do you have a better sense of what the real number might be?
I think it's really hard to say with any certainty, Charlie, but the bottom line is the numbers are horrific. Whether it's 2,500 or upwards from there, this is a regime that has lost any sense of legitimacy and is clinging to power by bloodying its population as best it can. The scenes we're seeing are so inspiring.
Look at all these people. And he just said, I paused that perfectly because by accident, but it's inspiring, really, to see these people finally say, you know what, we're sick of the shit in our country. We want our country back. We're tired of being held down by your boot, your sick ideologies, your sick fucking religion. From what I understand, this was originally a Christian state, and they want to go back to Christianity there. But no, we have to have Islam, right? And then, you know, you hear about, oh, it's all about Islamophobia, which is a made-up word. Islamophobic is not even a word. It's just made up. But this is inspiring to see these people step up and say, you know what, this is our fucking country. We're sick of seeing this happen. We need someone to help. We need help. And now here we are. People are being murdered. And then today, public executions, right? Absolutely unacceptable. And it should not just be America, but other countries need to do a coalition and go in there and get these people out of there and take this country back for the people.
These young Iranians who love their country, who are dedicated to a better life, who want to be friends with the United States, let's be clear, risking it all to try and bring democracy and freedom to their country. This is like 1989. The question now is, does the regime hang on to power and cling to power by the barrel of a gun?
And some may ask, well, how come we went into Venezuela so quick but not Iran? There's many reasons here. One, we didn't go in really quickly to Venezuela. It took about a month before they finally went in and did something. But it takes a lot of planning. You can't just go in there, right? Now, we knocked out Iran's nuclear capabilities, but they still have other ways to shoot our people down. So we want to go in and help, but we don't want to lose any American life in the process. Is it going to happen? There's a possibility it can. Iran is far worse, more evil than Venezuela is, right? Not the people in Venezuela, but the regime in Venezuela. Venezuela is proximity to America, a hell of a lot closer. So it's more of a danger to our country than Iran is to us. It doesn't mean we can't step in, but that's why we did Venezuela first and did it within a month's time, because you know what? They're sending drugs into our country. You know what I mean? The country is corrupt. It's a narco-terrorism state. Iran, just as bad, if not worse. So, but they're much farther away. So it takes longer to get there, and it takes a lot more planning to handle this issue. But I'm sure I'm no expert when it comes to strategery, as Bush would say, to strategics, but I would feel like this is not something America could do by themselves. They would need some help from someone. And the first person stepping up should be Israel. Now, in the past, we would have those coalitions from like France and Great Britain. But we see what's going on in Great Britain and France, right? Right? So their countries are out of control. They no longer have control of their own countries to be able to have them send us fighter jets or soldiers or anything to help out like we did back in the Iraq War, the Afghan War, stuff like that. Those countries are being overran by Muslims, right? So they can't even do it. So it's literally America, maybe Japan, but Japan's got their own problems. If Japan gets involved, they're worried about how soon China's going to go after Taiwan, right? Or even go after Japan. But here's the other problems is, if I got this wrong, correct me down below, but Iran got 70% of their oil from Venezuela. So we already fucked Iran, the regime, by capturing all that oil. Iran also produces oil. China gets 80% of their oil from Iran. So now we have to worry about China as well. Think about this. So if we're taking 80% of the supply of oil to China off their table, China may do something. They may. They know better, but they may. Russia also a supporter of Iran, and Russia has supplied Iran with a lot of weapons, drones, things like that. So there's a lot of conflict involved with that. Yes, Russia and China were involved with Venezuela, but not to a degree that it would hurt them that much, except for the oil ships were taken. But Iran, right there next to China, it would greatly hurt China, so we have to do this diplomatically and correctly. That's why. You have to be careful.
I think the regime has made a miscalculation here. They're making the same mistake they made over the summer in thinking that Donald Trump is bluffing. Donald Trump doesn't bluff. When he says stop, this isn't friendly advice. It's a directive. And the Iranians found out over the summer when they lost their nuclear weapons program. What is President Trump's next move? I think that's going to be the key question.
So I know the footage says it's from Saturday. That's mostly because there's not much footage getting out, because they have to kind of rehash all the footage from the days leading up to that day before the internet went out over there. So that's all we have to go by, other than those who might be able to sneak something out from Starlink, because Elon Musk set up Starlink over Iran to help get them some kind of outside connection to the world.
What are the realistic options that are on the table for President Trump?
Well, two things, Charlie. I think, first of all, getting information into Iran to the protesters and out to the rest of the world so we can see what is going on. Elon Musk deserves all the credit for making Starlink free for the people of Iran.
Absolutely.
We need to see more of that. And the second thing for the U.S. government, we need to target the instruments of state repression, the Basij militia, the Quds Force, the elements that are using force against peaceful protesters to kill them and preserve the regime's grip on power. That doesn't necessarily mean military force. We might look at cyber options, as we saw in Venezuela. The United States has some truly impressive cyber capabilities, so maybe you target command and control, maybe you target communications to make it harder for these thugs to use force against peaceful protesters.
I mean, I wouldn't call them thugs. They're far worse than thugs. So cyber optics. So they took out the power in the city where Maduro was. They knocked out the power. America did. So they could go in there under the cover of night. So they have these abilities. To me, that's like an EMP weapon, basically, just knocking out power. So they have the ability to do that. Now, I would think strategically the problem you have is there's so many people out on the street protesting. that you have to be careful where you're going to strike, because you don't want to kill any of the Iranians, right? The innocent Iranians that are just trying to like get freedom. So this is why communication is important. You would want to put out some kind of broad message. Hey, which we've already sent out some messages to our own people. Any U.S. Citizens or ambassadors need to get out of Iran now. That was yesterday. Israel also said the same thing. Well, not Israel, but India. Which we don't care about India. Who gives a shit about India? They're also a fucking problem. So you can get the message into the Iranians so they can scatter and get out of the way of harm, so we can go in there and possibly do something.
Well, as you point out, we wouldn't be seeing any of these images or know anything if it were not for those Starlink connections, and that's very important. I want to switch gears real quickly to this. Vice President Vance and Secretary of Rubio are meeting with Denmark's foreign minister at the White House today regarding Greenland. Why is Greenland such an...
The Greenland thing is so fucking, like, it's ridiculous. Like, I get why they're doing it. Greenland is pretty much... If you look on Google Maps, okay, or if you have a globe... Everybody knows what a globe is, right? If you look at a globe, Greenland is actually bigger than the United States of America. It's bigger, okay? It's a big land. It's a big island. Can't even call it an island anymore. It's a continent, you know? But if you look at it, right, it goes all the way up to the North Pole. And it divides North America from Russia, if you're going side by side. It's a great strategic place to have anti-air weapons in case of nuclear attack or something like that. Then we'd be able to shoot things down. We temporarily can't do that. We would have to wait. We'd have to use our naval fleet. We'd have to use possibly submarines if they have that capability. Or we'd have to wait till they get close enough to American shores to shoot down these weapons. Greenland would give us extra buffer and defense.
Important fixture in the mind of the White House, President Trump today.
Well, Greenland has been a priority for the United States all the way back to the 1860s and after World War II.
Okay, maybe I was off. Now, on Google Earth, Greenland looks gigantic compared to this one right here. Maybe it's just because it's curved, but look at this. So if you've got Russia, you got the North Pole up here, you got Russia, they could come across like that and get us, but they have to go over Canadian air. They could come over here through Alaska, or they could shoot this way. Primarily, it would probably come this way as mostly, because most of their targets are on the East Coast, minus any of the nuclear sites out here. But Greenland would be a great place to have anti-air defense to be able to shoot down any missiles coming our way.
And the United States tried to acquire it. And today, Greenland matters to us for a bunch of reasons. It matters to ensure that we have access to the Arctic. It matters because of critical minerals. It matters because of missile defense. And maybe most of all, it matters because China wants it and Russia wants it. And the United States is capable of protecting it. Now, all that said, I think this is one of those situations where we can get what we need through diplomacy rather than by threatening force. You know, let's use the carrots with our friends and save the sticks for our enemies.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't agree that Trump made that comment on television or live on whatever the hell people watch television anymore, but live on the news in a conference that he wanted someone to draw up plans for an invasion. We don't want to do that. We want them to diplomatically and be encouraged to be part of the United States of America. We don't want to go in there and take it by force. That is the dumbest fucking thing he ever said, right? So today, officials from Greenland were at the Capitol, at the White House, talking with our officials about some kind of plan or compromise. So hopefully it works out in the positive way, and we can just purchase them or just welcome them in as the 51st state or whatever. I think it would be a good idea. And again, it's for missile defense, and the fact that Russia and China both want it should be a concern for everybody. We don't want our enemies, our prime deadly enemies, Russia or China, having that when we already allow China to buy land in our country, which should not happen either. But that's that there. We'll talk more about this as this goes on. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. until it's over. That's the only time anything ever gets better is when it's over. So.